recluse himself from it, use that horrible American word, simply because he was implicated. But what really has got to me, Camilla, fair enough, the Metropolitan Police does not give reasons for its decisions and justify the decisions it makes over anything. That's absolutely right. There should be a police force that is independent of government and the Crown. That's absolutely right as well. But there's one event in Downing Street which I think Johnson should have received another fine for. When Dominic Cummings departed, his wife and Johnson, there was a big boozy party in the flat.
Allegedly, but the police investigated that, Shane, and they decided not to fine him. So why are you saying you know better than the police?
No, yes, I think on this one I do, because
Shane, you haven't seen any of the evidence.
If what I've read is true, if you'd allow me to develop it, I think if what I've read is true, he claimed in his written due to the police that he was interviewing someone for a job. Well, if he thinks I believe that, he must think I came down in the last shower.
But Shane, hang on a minute. You're a bit disappointed, aren't you? Like a lot of Johnson critics, that he didn't get fined more. Yeah, but he didn't get fined more. And the police, you can't contradict a police investigation, can you? And say, oh well, the police didn't do this properly. I mean, they looked at it for several weeks.
They did, and they spent a lot of money doing so. But they do not justify, nor should they have to do so, I think, their decisions. And for that reason, I have doubts. I'm not saying the police are wrong. I have a doubt, and I think it's a reasonable doubt to have, given that the man is such a pathological liar. If he can't tell the truth to Parliament about were there parties, weren't there parties, they were gatherings, and then they were, what was it, then they were, he was satisfied no rules were broken. Quite honestly, I don't know whether he's told the police the truth, whether they sent these questionnaires out. That's as far as they went. They were reluctant, as we all know, in the first place, to even look at the issue until Sue Gray got her report. But what I like about her is she is a no-nonsense woman, and we are going to get, I believe, a no-nonsense report. And I think she's the first person that's dealing with any of this that's approached it in what I call a no-nonsense way.
No-nonsense call from Shane there. Do you agree with him? 0345 606 0973. Let's speak to Peter now in Barry in South Wales. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Camilla.
Hello. What do you think? God love you. Thank you for ringing in.
Yeah, I agree with Shane, every word he said there. But my point is, I listened to the Sunday show this morning.
Yes.
And Nadine Sahawi was on there. And when it comes to who arranged the meeting between Sue Gray and Boris Johnson, he can't say. Why can't he own up to who organised that meeting?
What difference does it make,
It seems like the
Peter?
Conservative Party is taking us for fools.
Peter, what difference does it make?
I think it's a lot of difference, because if it was going to be fully transparent, why would the Prime Minister ask Sue Gray for a meeting?
But why would Sue Gray agree to a meeting if she thought it compromised her transparency and impartiality?
We don't understand.
Peter is saying there's transparency and impartiality here, and that's a problem on both sides. You can criticise Boris Johnson for calling a meeting, but you've also criticised in the same way Sue Gray for attending it before the reports come out.
Yeah, but Sue Gray works for Boris Johnson.
Yes, so she should have perhaps not meeting with him, so Peter.
Yeah, but
Why did she then? Why did she?
well, I don't think she would have, unless Boris Johnson called for that meeting. And
She
it
could have
seems
turned
to
around and said it
me
wasn't
that
appropriate.
it's not appropriate, is it?
I don't know what was said in the meeting, or we're still confused over who called it, but it's
Yeah, but why? If there's full transparency, why are the public questioning this? We shouldn't be, should we? Because I thought Boris was going to stay out of this. Yeah? And he hasn't.
Okay. Thank you for that, Peter. There is some confusion over who has called this meeting, but I would suggest that if there's a question mark over partiality, it has to be made on both sides. Boris Johnson calls a meeting and Sue Gray attends it. Surely Sue Gray is grown up enough, intelligent enough, and got enough foresight to predict if holding a meeting before the publication of her report with the Prime Minister is going to be problematic for the findings. I mean, that's an agreement on both sides to meet. You've got to have an agreement on both sides if there is a meeting. You don't just force yourself on the other side. She turned up at the meeting, so questions can be asked of her own decision making on that. Tom's in Guildford. Tom, what do you think?
Oh, hi, Camilla. I just wanted to speak to the point you were making about RV overlook. It just strikes me as that's part of the sort of, a media agenda of, things only lasting so long in the psyche. I mean, we get over, whether or not you've had a great capacity. We get over how you eat a bacon sandwich. What you don't get over, or shouldn't, I believe, is the discovery that we're led by mendacious hypocrites.
I mean, for the record, I don't know if any of us got over how Ed Miliband ate that bacon sandwich, but I'll take your more serious point. So you're saying this is all academic and it doesn't matter what happens next week?
I think it'll add texture to it. What that texture will prove to be, we'll be able to find out. But what we know is that those in charge of the nation and therefore in charge of us and our well-being are hypocrites, and found out about their hypocrisy, they move to lie.
But you must admit that he's in a very different position than he might have been 6 to 8 weeks ago, right before calling for a scout. Now you've got the likes of Douglas Ross and others in the Tory party changing their minds. Why do you think they've done that, Tom?
Because they are more concerned with the future of the Conservative Party rather than how well the government is functioning and serving the nation.
I know, but there are many within the party that think the future of the party would be better without Boris Johnson, not with him.
That exceeds it. I mean, it just strikes me that actually the most sensible thing for them to do would be to agree to put up a single candidate with no opposition, safe pair of hands, just to see it through the next few years.
I don't think that's going to happen, though, is it? I mean, who would it be? Who would the candidate be?
I think probably, it would be, some rather loose swivel-eyed, so, Jeremy Hunt would spring to mind, just to get us through, because I agree with the view that, the months of rancor that would follow an internal leadership election would make us look idiots. However, it doesn't get over the fact that we have to trust our government. And we now know that we have a government we trust. And surely that should be at the core.
But equally, Tom, isn't it a different situation now, just a final point, because he wasn't fined as much as people thought he would be? There was a suggestion that he was going to be subjected to, maybe half a dozen fines, and actually he's only got one for the birthday cake. So that strengthened his position, whether you or any of his critics like it or not. It's not been as catastrophic from the investigation point of view as it could have been.
That's part of, it strikes me as being part of the Conservative Party's narrative of trying to make it look worse than it is and then saying, oh no, look, it wasn't that bad after all. He still won. He still did what he did. And there's also this issue, and I think this is probably one of the most interesting parts that might come out of the Go report, which is about the culture. Because if he indeed tries to place all the blame on the civil servant, if he had no responsibility for the culture in the government office that he ran, it'll just be shocking.
Yes. No, I agree. It's certainly going to be difficult.
But it will still be shocking.
Thank you, Tom. Quite a few of you texting in to say, Sue Gray works for the Prime Minister, therefore she must attend this meeting. No, Sue Gray's boss is the head of the civil service, who is Simon Case. Her boss isn't the Prime Minister. Sue Gray can turn around and say no, she will not have a meeting with Boris Johnson ahead of the publication of the report because she doesn't deem it appropriate. We're still in the dark as to who instigated the meeting, and as one of the callers confirmed, Zahari didn't even seem to know who put that date in the diary. Is it academic now? The findings are the findings, surely. The question for you is, if they're damning, what does the Prime Minister do? Or actually now, with the cost of living crisis hurtling down towards us and Ukraine at war and bigger fish to fry, are you now over Partygate? 0345 606 0973. Taking all of your calls after this. It's 6:30 and here's the news headlines with Mike Plum.
Through warnings that monkeypox could have a massive impact on access to sexual health services. The virus can be transmitted from person to person through close physical contact. We're told the Sue Gray report could be published as early as Tuesday. The Cabinet Minister has insisted he does not know who called a controversial meeting between Boris Johnson and Sue Gray over the senior civil servant's pivotal Partygate report. Church bells in Manchester will ring at 10:31 tonight to mark exactly 5 years since the arena bombing. 22 people were killed in the attack at a pop concert. Earlier, 20,000 people took part in the Great Manchester Run to mark the anniversary. Manchester City have held off Liverpool to win the Premier League by a single point. They beat Aston Villa 3-2. Tomorrow's weather: rain clearing from southeast England, sunny spells and showers elsewhere, with highs of 17 Celsius.
This is LBC.
Efficiently, in a world of ever-rising energy bills, it's how we want our heating to run. The knowledgeable team at Swale Heating can help. We can install the latest A-rated boilers from manufacturers like Worcester Bosch, and greener solutions such as air source heat pumps and photovoltaic panels. Plus, we can help you access any available grants. With 50 years in the heating business, you could say we're the experts at saving you money. Visit swaleheating.com. Rely on us to keep you warm.
Today's tale begins when the Smith family sit down to enjoy a film. Suddenly they heard the scariest sound.
The Wi-Fi is down.
The family were doomed to wait for a film that wouldn't load.
Save yourself from broadband nightmares. Get BT's Unbreakable Hybrid Broadband backed up by EE, the UK's best network. Search BT Hybrid Broadband. 88% UK availability. 4G connection takes up to 175 seconds. Best for mobile network performance. Verify at ee.co.uk/claims.
It's Sunday, but today we like to call it spend £20, save £5 day. Get a different daily offer until Tuesday and make every day a good day. Exclusively on the McDonald's app. £5 off with a minimum order of £20 via the app. Minimum order excludes delivery fees. Ends midnight tonight. One-time use at participating restaurants. 18 plus. See T's and C's via the app.
Get up and at it, as my mother used to say. Get moving. Get your skates on. Get your hair done and the race run. Get behind the wheel. Get picking up and dropping off. Get busy.
Take the next left on 200.
Get deliveries done. And get home to see mom. Whatever the mission, Enterprise Rent-A-Car helps over 100,000 every day.
People need answers when they call Macmillan, so you really need to be able to get things done. If a patient says they're worried about money, I make sure they're getting every benefit they're entitled to. If they're anxious about a partner's treatment, we'll get them counselling. I even sorted a patient's parking ticket the other day. I mean, that's the last thing they needed on their plate. I do what I have to do. So if I have to ask you to make a donation, it isn't going to faze me either. You can do that now at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support. Whatever it takes.
Camilla Tominey on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
6:34. Some debate online about who Sue Gray's line manager is. It isn't Boris Johnson. A line manager technically is Simon Case. Also, let's just have a look at what other people who have worked with Sue Gray said about her. So David Laws, who was a Liberal Democrat minister in the 2010 coalition government, said that Oliver Letwin, former minister, once told him that Ms Gray was the brains behind the UK government operation. In his memoirs, Mr Laws quotes Mr Letwin as saying, "Our great United Kingdom is actually run by a lady called Sue Gray, the head of ethics or something in the Cabinet Office." Mr Letwin, David Cameron's policy chief, added, "Unless she agrees, things just don't happen. Cabinet reshuffles, departmental reorganisations, the whole lot. It's down to Sue Gray. Nothing moves in Whitehall unless Sue says so. She gets to censor our memoirs too." And she's apparently stepped in previously to monitor a Prime Minister's behaviour. After Miss Gray was asked to look into alleged parties at Number 10, former Chancellor George Osborne tweeted, "On our night in Downing Street in 2010, 30 minutes after the Labour team had left, everyone was fawning at David Cameron. Then someone spoke out. 'I'm sorry, PM, but you can't do that.' Who was it?" I asked. It was Sue Gray. So, Sue Gray is independent. I mean, the civil service is impartial by definition. So she's going to report what she's going to report in an impartial, factual and contemporaneous manner. I get that there's a debate about who instigated the meeting with whom, but it's inaccurate to describe the Prime Minister as Sue Gray's line manager. He isn't. Let's just look back on what Zahawi said, acknowledging that Johnson is Gray's ultimate boss, i.e. he is the boss of he is the boss of Simon Case, but that Gray is answerable ultimately to Simon Case, who ironically might be hung out to dry in her report because he may be made the scapegoat. He declined to say who had called this meeting. I don't believe that it is material to the outcome of the investigation because Sue Gray is professional and has the highest level of integrity. I think people who are on Twitter suggesting that Sue Gray is somehow being hoodwinked into a meeting with Boris Johnson and that it is inappropriate are then calling her credentials into question, aren't they? I mean, she's meant to be resolutely impartial here. And if you're undermining that, then you're basically saying that the report isn't going to be fit for purpose. You can't have it both ways. Sam is Nash in Kent. Sam, what do you think?
Hello, Camilla. Thank you for taking my call. By the way, I do not think any meeting between Sue Gray and the Prime Minister will change the content or the quality of the report in any way. Because we've seen what the preliminary report said about the whole Partygate.
Yes.
My second point is, I don't think Partygate is over yet. Even though Boris Johnson might survive the Sue Gray report this week. However, the Sue Gray report has put Boris Johnson on a cliff edge. By that I mean, most of the Conservative MPs, in my view, deep down, have not forgiven him about Partygate. And they will only take one incident, i.e., a poor by-election result or another result, and then they will act against him.
Yes.
If Boris Johnson believes that he's got the support of his MP, the best thing for him is to call a vote of confidence. And then that will be enough. Because if he wins the vote, then that will settle the matter.
I know, but then you're talking about him being on a cliff edge, and all of the people that were lining up to push him over have now changed their mind. You've even had Roger Gale, who is like a fierce Johnson critic, say, oh no, actually, it wouldn't be appropriate for him to resign because Ukraine is at war with Russia.
I think the reason most of those people, in my view, have changed their mind is because they haven't got... See, if Roger Gale, Charles Walker and 4 other people call for him to go, and the rest of the MPs, who are about 300, are not calling for him to go, then it will be useless. So they will rather be with the majority for now. So if something happens, then I'm sure it will trigger the anger in this Partygate. Because it's very hard to forgive the Partygate. And even people, the MPs who said they are forgiving him, they still believe that Boris Johnson has done something absolutely wrong and has, in fact, he's got a penalty fare, a penalty fine, which should have even been the end of the matter.
Yeah,
because
okay.
a serving Prime Minister receiving a penalty fine, that is unthinkable.
No.
Especially in the United Kingdom.
Okay.
You expect that in other third world countries, but not in the UK.
Thank you, Sam. Imagine this. Boris Johnson stays on even after the Gray report next week. Keir Starmer ends up being fined for Durham and ends up resigning. Imagine that for a moment. And your reactions, please. 0345 6060 973, because that could actually happen now. Could have the leader of the opposition resigning over a fine and Boris Johnson hung out to dry by the Sue Gray report but remaining in post. Cindy's in Wellingborough. Cindy, what do you think?
Hi, Camilla.
Hello.
The meeting should not have been permitted. I don't know who in their right mind would write a report and the person you're writing the report on and the person writing the report think it's fine to have a meeting. What are we all going to think?
But what do you think, Cindy? What do you think, Cindy? What do you suspect may have come of this meeting, and how might it affect next week's findings?
As soon as I heard the meeting had taken place, my immediate text said about images. Because that's what I think.
I mean, Downing Street have at least committed to publishing this report in full, and it's got 300 photographs, apparently, could be added as an appendix, and it could be 500 pages long. How damning does it need to be to force a resignation, I suppose, is the question, Cindy?
For me, it's about the trust. I don't think I will trust it as much as I would have done had the meeting not have taken place.
Okay, so this meeting is, yeah, okay. I mean, you seem to be, this meeting and the fact that it's happened seems to be significant to some people. I'd humbly suggest that both parties have to agree to a meeting. I don't think either side can be harangued into a meeting. Let's speak to Chris now in Clitheroe. Chris?
Yes, good evening.
Evening. What do you think of all this? Is Sue Gray's report going to change your mind on Johnson?
Not at all. For a start off, there wouldn't have been a meeting, because if I'd been her, I wouldn't have gone, no matter who it is. She is, in effect, a reviewer of work and auditor, just like I was. And it just makes it a total farce. If you look at the history of post-Johnson, when he came in, there was the number of old people's homes missed off the register for COVID.
Yeah, I know, but Chris, this isn't going to be covered by her report, is it?
No, but it's all an intro. It's all something that if MPs have any memories at all, is something that should be affecting them.
Okay, I mean, some of the people phoning in have already made their minds up, so it strikes me that Sue Gray's report doesn't make much difference at all. A few of you suggesting, how do we know that Sue Gray hasn't been offered a peerage at the meeting with Johnson? Well, we don't know that, but there's no evidence whatsoever to suggest that she may or may not have been anyway. Let's read out some of your texts and tweets here. Paul, let him stay and break the Conservative Party as he breaks everything else, says Paul. Daniel, genuine question. How do we know Boris only got one fine? It's private, isn't it? Well, that's what the Met Police have confirmed. The Met Police have said that we've only fined him for the one incident, and that was the birthday cake ambush. Ros in Watford, you can't move on from a situation until it's been dealt with and dealt with properly, not just through playing for time and hoping that moving on will come to mean that Joe Public will have reached the point where they are tired to death about hearing about it. That is, I believe, what is behind Boris's reason in delaying as much as he dares. Well, it's kind of worked, the stalling tactic, hasn't it? Because he's not in as much trouble today as he was 6 to 8 weeks ago, I would humbly suggest. Sue says, I like Dominic Cummings's trolley analogy when it comes to Boris. Do I think he's fit to lead, or do I think that the left are out to get him? ? Yeah, you're stuck in the middle like a lot of people, Sue. This is the trouble. Where's the alternative coming from? And are people confident that Keir Starmer can make a better fist of it than Boris Johnson? Maybe a lot of you are. But I'd humbly suggest that if he is also fined, and he's going to be in a pickle. James says, he's a politician, of course he's sparing with the truth. Tell me one that isn't. Oh, the cynicism there. Victoria says, both PM and Starmer should resign because Starmer has said that the PM should resign for being under criminal investigation. Now he should resign for being under criminal investigation, especially as a former director of public prosecutions. He should know better. Sorry, that's not from Victoria, it's from Ada in Victoria. And then Paul in Kingston says, Boris is doing everything he can to kick the can down the road. The civil servants could have been asked ages ago whether they objected to being named in the Grey report. Yeah, I did think that as well. It's only been until 5 p.m. today that they could make a representation against the report. Also, you're talking about a meeting, but surely a great deal of this report was already written before they met, regardless of who instigated the meeting. So what difference does it make? She's been gathering evidence now for weeks, and if it's running to hundreds and hundreds of pages, it must mean that 99% of those pages were already written by last week. Otherwise, how would she be in a position to publish as soon as Tuesday, as we understand it? Well, thanks for all of your calls, texts and tweets on that particular issue. Now, it's 5 years ago today, and this is how the news about an incident at Manchester Arena was reported on the BBC News Channel.
Breaking news out of Greater Manchester of the police there and emergency services attending what they described about 20 minutes ago as an incident that they were having to deal with. Well, now Greater Manchester Police have tweeted that it is a serious incident at Manchester Arena. That's the tweet there.
So after this, we're going to be speaking to our reporter on the ground in Manchester, who's been covering some of the commemorations 5 years on from 22 people being killed in that terror attack. And I'm also going to be speaking to somebody about how the power of song has helped to heal some of the survivors. Stay tuned for that. You're listening to Camilla Tominey, and it's 7:15.
Coming up at 7 on
LBC, Rachel Johnson.
Whatever Sue Gray reports next week, do you agree with me there should be an amnesty on all fines for rule breaking, and there should never be lockdown laws again?
Rachel Johnson on LBC.
Julius Caesar here. Did you know jobs booked through Checkatrade are guaranteed for 12 months? They are. So even if your closest friends are treacherous scoundrels like mine, at least you'll know you can trust the builder you booked on. Recommendations you can rely on. Up to £1,000. T's and C's apply.
I've never been a fan of lilies. I want sunflowers and tulips at my funeral. It might cheer everyone up a bit.
Oh, that sounds like a lovely idea. But we can arrange that for you.
With over 150 years experience, you can count on Co-op Funeral Care to help you pre-plan the send-off you want. To find out more, visit your local Co-op Funeral Care or go to coop.co.uk/personal funerals. Co-op, it's what we do.
1977. Sweaty clubs, screaming singers, volume turned to full. I loved it. But maybe I went too often, because recently my hearing's not been so good. But now I'm back. Got sorted out of Specsavers with their advanced hearing aids. Was like music to my ears.
To find out more or book a free hearing test, search Specsavers Hearing.
Want a better broadband deal? Right now, TalkTalk have even faster speeds at the same great value. Get a super fast speed boost at no extra cost. Average speeds of 67 megabits per second for the same price as 38. Just £23.50 a month for 24 months. A super fast speed boost at no extra cost. Deals that make sense. Search TalkTalk Fibre. TalkTalk for everyone. Offer ends 25th.